My name's Kevin Christopherson, and I'm the current president of the Trail Alliance of Southern Utah. Like I said, this kind of stuff makes me self-conscious because there's a lot of people behind this. I mean, I'm the president, and I guess I'm the face of it. But we have so many people doing things behind the scenes, and we'll certainly want to find a chance to recognize those people. Now, I couldn't even name them all. Really, I'd forget somebody. But you're all a part of this. I mean, we raised $50,000. When I say we, I'm talking about the community, that went into the Pine Valley Project, and we've since raised more money for the West Mountain Project, and that's you. That's the community. I mean, you gave that money to us, which is pretty flattering and it's humbling, frankly, to push this forward, so yeah, continue to be a part of this and give us the information we need to move forward. Several years ago, we sort of polled our community, if you will, and sort of informally and formally. It's like, what do people want? And what we heard didn't really surprise me. What people wanted were things on the extremes. We have a lot of cross-country trails that are kind of intermediate. I heard that people wanted more beginner trails, green trails, and I heard people want more downhill trails and black trails. The last several years we've been moving that way, and since that time we added kind of a beginner loop out there at more cowbell, and then we helped with the construction of the trails out to desert canyons, and those are dark green. But what we haven't had is the downhill trails and the really expert downhill trails. We've got kind of slow tech, but not really the downhill stuff. And so we've been kind of working towards that, and it's hard here because we don't have a lot of mountains around here. We want something close, and so we've been working at that for, we started looking at West Mountain really pretty hard in 2017, and that kind of serves two purposes. One is it gets us to a higher elevation, so it extends the biking season locally close. You don't have to drive all the way to Bryan Head or somewhere if you don't want to, and it gives us that elevation drop that provides that other option for trails. At the same time, it's funny, this sport is evolving really fast, and I'm lucky enough to have a grandson that kind of has helped me observe that. In 2016, when people thought of a downhill trail, it was, it was whole enchilada. It was like come off the mountain and bomb down a kind of almost a hiking style trail, and then, and everybody still loves that. That's a popular trail, but more and more, you're seeing people want more of a, for lack of a better explanation, kind of a ski resort style trail, more of a purpose-built features, rollers, berms, jumps, and it's not really a bike park, but there's some of those same kinds of features that you would see in a bike park. So even since we started thinking first about what West Mountain should be, I think what people want is beginning to change. Our motivation was to create a downhill trail that everybody could ride. It'd be kind of, have some A-B lines where the experts have a line on some features, and beginners or intermediates have a ride around kind of thing. The consultant recommended kind of a network of trails in the bottom where there's 2 to 3 mile loops that can be ridden in different ways and connected in different ways, and to be sort of a black technical trail that's rocky and kind of a World Cup downhill kind of a thing, where you can really, if you got a big bike with a lot of travel and you got the skills, you can really challenge yourself bombing through rock gardens and dropping off ledges and things. And then you could have a green trail that's really kind of flowy. That's just kind of an easy trail. Kind of a, what's an example in Cedar City? Probably liken it, Iron Giant. It's kind of anybody can ride that. It's still fun, but it's you just kind of roll down. So that would be kind of a version of that. And then the blue trail would be what been kind of called in the past a flow trail, or more of a bike park ski resort kind of a trail where you have berms and rollers and jumps, be tabletop kinds of things. So there again, a beginner rider could ride that. He or she would just go slower and just roll over things, whereas a intermediate or an expert could jump them, could have the speed and the skills to jump those things. So right now it looks like it's sort of evolving still, but it looks like we're going to have probably a 5 to 6 mile downhill, which by the way is sort of equivalent to Bunker Creek up at the Bryan Head. Only it would be purpose-built, it'd be machine-built for bikes. I think it could be more fun than Bunker Creek. And then we could also have some of these trails that the consultant recommended at the bottom. And I see that as a real bonus because people who want to shuttle, or the climbers who want to climb and want a long climb, they could do that. They could do that as a giant loop. That'd probably be a 15-mile loop with a pretty good climb. Even gravel grinders could ride that up, and then a purpose-built downhill. But then when they got to the bottom, they'd be in the middle of this network where you could add hot laps to that. If you wanted to ride more, or if you wanted to spend the weekend, you could shuttle it one day and then ride the hot laps the other. Or if different people in your group, like said, if some people don't want to do a lengthy downhill, they could shuttle you up, and then they could be riding hot laps at the bottom, and then wait for you to come down and join them, kind of thing. We're trying to serve the community, and so we're trying to create the variety of trails, and especially now with more young people, not just NICA, but certainly NICA, but young people, and even I run into retired people who've moved here who've never ridden a mountain bike, and now they want to learn to ride. And so it's about giving the beginners the chance to ride and learn and grow in the sport as well. West Mountain, a lot of people probably don't even know where it is around here. It's if you go on the old highway over to Mesquite, the old Highway 91, I think it is. They used to call it the Utah Hill many years ago, before the freeway was in place. That's how you had to go to Vegas or California. You went over that pass. In fact, that's the route of the old Spanish Trail. That's the way Native Americans and early settlers went, because the gorge, you couldn't get through the gorge. So when we started looking for potential downhill trails, the BLM was quite cooperative, and there aren't many mountains on the BLM. The BLM mountains tend to be the forest. BLM tends to be the deserts, but this one's BLM, and so we were able to convince the BLM to take a look at this, and it's really a beautiful area that's recreationally unused. Hunters go there, and there's some motorized recreation out there, but there's really not been much hiking or biking. There is some rock climbing. There's some fairly recognizable, even nationally, rock climbing locations out there. So it's getting some recreation, but this area is growing so fast, and recreation is such an important part of our community, our economy, that the BLM was willing to look at expanding out there. And the same thing, it's on that side of the county. Most of the recreation has been on the east side of the county, sort of east of St. George. The Hurricane area, Zion National Park. You've got Snow Canyon over there, but in terms of biking, you've got Santa Clara, you've got a few things, but not very much on that east side of the county. And so we felt like not only is this a new opportunity for everybody, but it provides a lot more opportunity for people that live in St. George, or certainly on the east side of St. George, Santa Clara, Ivins. This is going to be their backyard, so to speak. This particular piece on West Mountain, the BLM was willing to look at that. They're interested in maybe expanding recreation out there. So this was some of the early concepts. The way the process works, you have to put together a concept. You need something for people to evaluate. The agencies or the landowner, whether it's a private landowner, they want to know, what are you talking about? What are the impacts? What good and bad from what you're talking about. So you have a concept, and then you can kind of move forward from that. The problem is, concepts and reality are never the same thing. So you can see kind of several lines on here. The blue line on this side was the original BLM concept, which was a pretty extreme elevation drop from near the top of the mountain, from up around over 7,000 feet to down just under 5,000 feet. And that concept, once we got into the actual design, wasn't going to work. The yellow line was another concept about how could we take this alignment and make it practical. And then the sort of orange line was an alternative on the other side, and there's some other stuff at the bottom. So we felt like this terrain was rugged enough, and the trail was going to be expensive enough that it justified bringing in kind of an expert trail builder. So we brought in a consultant. They came back with this recommendation, and this is going to occur in the lower part of this area down here, and kind of in the valley here. If you can read topographic maps, this is kind of a drainage with mountains on either side. And so what they suggest, these are existing roads here. This was the proposed trailhead, that we improve the road, make a climbing trail just going up the valley. It'd be a really easy climb for cyclists. You'd ride up here and get near the top, and then you'd have kind of different loop options coming down. You can see a black, blue, and green. Those are the actual sort of trail color in expert, beginner, intermediate. And then they would be interconnected. And you can see the green trails are longer, so you have more curves. You take some of the grade out of it. They're not so steep, and they become kind of a flowy kind of a thing. The black trails are shorter, so they're steeper, and then they're actually designed over more rocky terrain. So you've got more of a sort of a World Cup downhill kind of a thing where you're going over bigger rocks and drops and things. And then the blue trail would be more of kind of your typical ski resort kind of a trail with the berms and rollers and tabletops. And then these would be connected, and they don't show up on this map, this concept, but they'd be connected in different ways, so people could actually create their own experience. You could park here and run up the trail, and you could start down the green and hop on the blue, or you could start on the blue and skip over to the black, and you could create different experiences. And that gives you the advantage a couple of ways. One is like if it's just an after-work ride, maybe you don't have time to drive all the way out there. It's about a 30-minute drive from downtown St. George, and then shuttle to the top, ride down, and then go back up and pick up your shuttle vehicle. That's probably something you couldn't do after work. But here you could do that. You could just ride to the bottom, unload your bike, and do as many laps as you wanted or whatever time allowed. And that seems like a real advantage to me. In this type of terrain, even machine-built trails with experts, you're lucky to get a half a mile a week done. You probably wouldn't get a half mile a week done. So you're looking at several months. You're roughly 10 miles, so you're looking at 20 weeks, if you will, of construction time. That's just sort of an educated guess.